Hi, and welcome to this presentation about word order in Norwegian. My name is Marianne, and today I will explain the word order in Norwegian main clauses, also known as helsetninger or hovedsetninger. To get a better understanding of the Norwegian word order, it is needed to have a good understanding of certain sentence elements, what function a word has in the sentence. Subject, objects, verbs, and adverbials are examples of sentence elements. Let's go through them. First, we have the verb. This is the action of a sentence. For example, he buys a book. Buys is the verb. The subject is the performer of the action. Who is buying? He buys a book. He is the subject. The object is the thing or person something is done to. So in the sentence, he buys a book. What is he buying? A book. A book is the object. An adverbial is an element that says where, when, how, or why an action is happening. In sentences like he buys a book today, today is a place, a time adverbial. He buys a book in a shop is a place adverbial. We also have sentence modifiers. Those are adverbs like ikke, kanskje, gjerne, heller, alltid, også. In other words, adverbs that modify the entire sentence by negating it, doubting the sentence, saying they'd rather do something, saying they also, and so on. We also have a predicative, and this is kind of like an object, but after the verbs to be and to become, and also some other verbs. In a sentence like he is nice, nice is a predicative. She became a teacher is a predicative. Now, why is this important to know? Well, one of the most important rules, maybe the most important rule in the Norwegian grammar is what we call the V2 rule, that the verb must be the second element in a Norwegian main clause. So to abide by this rule, you need to know what a verb is. So in sentences like han snakker norsk nå, the action of the sentence is snakker, so that's the verb, and that has to be the second element. Nå snakker han norsk. Still, snakker is the action of this sentence, the verb, and it has to be the second element. Tom og Lisa snakker også norsk nå. Snakker is still the action of this sentence, therefore the verb, and it has to be in the second element. In the third example here, Tom and Lisa is what we call a complex subject. Who is speaking Norwegian? Tom and Lisa. Alright, it is 3 words, but it's still only one element, followed by the verb, which is the second element. Verb in the second place. Not all sentences start with the subject. Like in the sentence han snakker norsk nå, han is the subject, and it's in the beginning of the sentence, the first element, and the verb is the second element. But not all sentences start with the subject. And if a sentence doesn't, then the subject comes after the verb as the third element. Like in the second example, nå snakker han norsk. The subject splits the verbs when there are 2 verbs, and the subject isn't at the beginning. Like in the last example, nå kan han snakke norsk. The subject is still in the third element, and it splits the verbs kan and snakke. The subject is element 1 or 3. And sentence modifiers, words like ikke, they come after the verb. Words like ikke, sentence modifiers, are also called setningsadverbial in Norwegian. And these sentence modifiers split the verbs when there are more than 2 verbs. So nå kan han ikke snakke norsk. There we have ikke in between the verbs. In example 4, but also in example 2, the sentence modifier comes after the subject because the subject must be in the first or third element. Adverbials say when, where, how, or why someone does something. They are either first or last in the sentence. Solen skinner I Bergen nå, or nå skinner solen I Bergen. We can also start with the place adverbial. I Bergen skinner solen nå. But we can only have one adverbial first in a sentence, because the verb has to be the second element. Place. The place adverbial tends to go before the time adverbial, just as shown in the first example. Solen skinner I Bergen nå. We can combine main clauses by using conjunctions like men, meaning but, and og, meaning and. And these conjunctions are always element 0. That means that we get element 1 after the conjunction, and the verb is element 2. We also always have a comma in front of conjunctions. So han norsk, og jeg norsk. Og is element 0, jeg is element 1, the verb is element 2. Han kommer fra Tyskland, men nå bor han ikke I Tyskland. Men is element 0, nå is element 1, bor, the action, the verb, is element 2, and because the subject isn't in element 1, it has to be element 3, han. Question words like hva, hvem, hvordan, når, and so on are element 1 when we make a question like this. And then the verb comes directly after the question word because the verb has to be the second element. So hvor bor du? Hvor is 1, bor is 2, and du is 3. But yes/no questions, they start with the verb. And the subject follows right after. Bor du her? Bor han ikke I Oslo? So here's a summary. The first element can be a subject, an adverbial, or a question word. The second element must be the verb. This is the verb that's either in the present tense or in the past tense. The third element is the subject in those inverted main clauses and also in yes/no questions or questions in general. The fourth element is the position of a possible sentence modifier, and the fifth element is the position of a verb that's in the infinitive or the past participle. The sixth element is the position of the objective or the predicative. And the last element, that's the position of adverbials. Adverbials of manner usually comes before adverbials of place, which comes before adverbials of time. Jeg bor ikke sammen med kjæresten min I Japan nå, for example. Here are some online exercises and sources. You can do online exercises on the webpage of Praktisk Norsk 2, Norwegian on the Web 1, or på vei, and sources used are the book Byene Bergen and the webpage grammatikk.com.